budget presentation, we spoke about doubling from 1%, 2% agriculture as part of the GDP. Is that sufficient given what we saw earlier this year when the cargo boat, there was a disruption to that service?
Well, is not sufficient, but we want to have realistic, attainable goals for the next fiscal. So yes, that will not take us to where we need to be, but it is a step in the right direction. For us, is more than just the provision of food. Is really a question of food security, which is a concern for jurisdictions all over the world. Because with climate change, with global conflicts, with issues with supply and logistics and shipping, there is a challenge globally, and jurisdictions are at risk when it comes to food security. Tobago being this small magnifies that risk 10 times for us. Because for us, it's the fact that all of what we import also have to come through another place before it gets here. That's part of the problem too, because food security is not just what we produce, but food security is also about how we are able to have consistent access and supply safely to food without many impediments. And so part of the food security conversation is not just what we hope to increase in numbers in terms of productivity in our farms, but it also has to do what happens with our port and the much needed port development that we will not give up on as a dream in terms of developing here in Tobago. It has to do with cargo and cargo handling at the airport, and the fact that the old terminal can be used and will be used to facilitate some of that cargo handling. Because as small as we are, we have to ensure that we have a consistent supply, a safe, consistent supply. And our food security has benefits for our friends and family in Trinidad as well. Because we often think of what happens to Little Tobago if Trinidad is cut off. But what if something happens to Trinidad? We should be in a position in reverse to provide support to them. What if there is something cataclysmic that happens at our major seaport or airport in Trinidad? Are we, meaning Tobago, are we in a position to say that we will now be on the receiving end of the majority of the country's goods so that we can in turn supply Trinidad? I think that measure of redundancy is also needed for the country as a whole. And I think as a country, we also have to look at how do we nationally increase agriculture's contribution to GDP. I think it's significantly low given our natural assets. And we have to find a way to improve on that and not be so reliant on food sources, food imports coming from the metropolitan north. And part of that conversation as well is where CARICOM fits into all of this. And how are we setting up an infrastructure that we will get our supplies from other CARICOM territories as opposed to the global north. Those south-south relations that we have ignored to our peril, I think we have to open those doors critically as well.